All right, so in this video, we're going to be going through your analytics dashboard, and I'm going to show you exactly how to read the data. And the reason why this is so important is because this is what is going to give you all the context you need in order to make real smart data-driven decisions in your business. It's going to help you pinpoint what your biggest bottlenecks are. It's also going to show you what is working well, but most importantly, it's just going to show you where there is room for improvement. And it's also going to help guide you through creating your disqualification and routing rules in the most effective way possible. So when you go to your analytics dashboard, just click on the left-hand side here. The first thing that you'll see is that you can actually filter by the date range on the top right-hand side here. And then additionally, you can also filter by either global data, meaning all events, or you can view specific events. So for this example, we're just going to look at all of the different events. So on the left-hand side here, first you have the scheduling funnel. So this is the number of times that your scheduler has been viewed. This is the amount of contacts that have been generated, and this is the amount of calls that have been generated. So if you look at this here, if you just hover over this, you can see that we had 6,492 calls that were booked through the scheduling funnel. Okay, so this is people who actually went through the entire form and ended up booking a call. This number here is the number of extra contacts that were generated, right? So 12,000 extra leads that were generated. These are people that did not complete the booking form. Then here we have the total number of calls booked. So you can see here that we booked 6,492 calls, but by converting these extra leads into calls, we actually booked a total of 7,500 calls. So this is 1,100 extra calls booked just during this time period. Now, let's say your average cost per call is $200. If you book 1,100 extra calls, that's $220K in ad spend equivalent, right? Now that's just the cost. Let's factor in what a call is actually worth. If a call is worth $1,000 to you, well, booking an extra 1,100 calls is worth an extra 1.1 million, right? So this just demonstrates and illustrates the value of having these extra leads. And this is obviously one of the core solutions that iClosed provides, right? But this is just the start of it. Now, over here on the right-hand side, you can see the calls created, right? And then if you click one of these, you can actually open up a mini view of the global data, so you can see all the calls that were generated from this time period. So this you can filter by week, month, quarter, or year. So this is a week's worth of calls that were booked here. And if we open this up, we can see all of the call outcomes. We can see who the closer was. We can obviously see like the call location. You can see the deal value. This is incredibly helpful for you to just get a quick glance overview at like how the week is performing, right? Now, if we move down here, you can see the strategy call outcomes. So this shows you how many calls resulted in a no sale versus how many calls resulted in a sale. And then you can also see the pending, which just means the outcomes haven't been logged yet for this specific sale, right? Or for this specific call. So if you go over here to the right hand side, you get a deeper breakdown of each one of these no sales. Right, so we can see here on the week of the 7th through the 13th, we had 425 no sales. And then if we go over to the same exact week, we can see how each one of those, or why each one of those calls was logged as a no sale, right? And again, you can open this up to view the sort of global data in a window directly in the analytics dashboard here. And so now we can see all of the no sale reasons for this week, right? So we can see here, there's a lot of admin canceled, for example, right? So maybe there's a conversation that needs to be had with the closer to understand why all of these calls are being canceled by the closer, right? Then you can see here, contact canceled. That means the lead actually canceled the call. All right, so this just gives you a quick glance overview as to why you're having so many no sales. Of course, you also have the sales here as well, so you can click on this and you can see all of the sales, and then you can see all of the objections that were overcome. You can see the closers that these sales were attached to. You can see the sale value. You can see whether or not there was an actual cash collected or if it was just a deposit that was collected, right? And of course, you can open the contact cards up as well if you want to get more context or information as to each one of these leads, right? And if you open up the invited questions, you can see how they answered these. And this just gives you more data to kind of base your decisions off of, right? Now, if we go down here, obviously you can see the closing rate. This toggle right here will show you the closing rate on all calls booked versus if you turn this on, this is only live calls. So this is people that actually showed up. So if you want to view the closing rate on all calls, you turn the toggle off. If you want to view the closing rate purely on leads that actually showed up to the call, then you would turn the toggle on, right? Engagement is leads that either resulted in a sale or a deposit. So this is similar to the closing rate, but it's including those that made a deposit, right? Whereas closing is only on those that actually paid rather than people who just put down a deposit. And then you have the show up rate as well. And then of course, each one of these has a small video tutorial that you can watch just to get some more context as to, you know, what each one of these sort of sections goes over. Then of course here you have the sales breakdown. This will show you total revenue, the amount won, total deposits, recurring revenue that's generated. You can filter this by week, month, quarter, or year. Now this is what arguably is the most valuable part of the analytics dashboard in my opinion. This is the scheduling cohort, and this is what's going to give you the actual information and context that you need in order to understand like where some of the room for improvement lies. Okay, so here you can filter by calls, sales, show up, or canceled. Okay, and each one of these essentially serves a different purpose. For example, if you're filtering by calls, you can see, obviously this is in French, but I can tell you this asks how old are you. All right, you can see out of everybody that answered this question, who is most likely to book a call. Right, so here you can see there's 255 people, which equals 22%. Here you can see there's 320 people, which equals 28% of the people that answered this question ended up booking a call, right? So this tells you that this age group of 50 plus is actually a very valuable age group to target. So this is going to help you understand your sort of ICP at a at a deeper level. This is going to help direct your marketing campaigns so that you know what a qualified sort of lead looks like to you, right? Now, of course, over here you have, let's take this example, 16 to 19, we only had one person book, right? Out of hundreds. So we know that we shouldn't be targeting 16 to 19-year-olds with this specific offer, right? So this is helpful to know who you should be showing your ads to and who you should be speaking to in all of your messaging, in your ads, and in your funnel, right? Now, if we look at the sales column, you can see who is most likely to actually buy and convert, right? So you can see here, based on that example that we just went through, yes, we have the highest closing rate on 16 to 19-year-olds, but this is only one sale out of over 100, okay? And so there's obviously a difference between the closing rate and also the closing volume, right? And so these are things that you want to pay attention to. But you can see here that one of the healthier closing rates and one of the higher like volume in terms of closes was the 18 to 29-year-old age group. So again, you can use this to know who you're targeting in your ad campaigns and who you're speaking to in your funnel and in your VSL or in your webinar. This gives you context as to who you should be speaking to, but this is also going to help you set up your disqualification and routing rules effectively, right? So you may want to route this cohort of people, anybody that answers the invitee question with this answer, you may want to route these to your best closer because they have the highest likelihood of closing, right? Now, of course, would I recommend routing a specific age group to your best closer? Probably not necessarily. You can see here that the average closing rate is pretty similar amongst each one of these answers. There's not enough of a difference on this question alone, in my opinion, to route this to a specific closer. Now, what you can do is you can actually route, if you have a question like this where you're asking their age, you can route these to closers that are within the same age group so that there's some similarities there between the closer and the lead. That can help. But let's say you have a different question where you're qualifying based on credit score, and you can see here that one of the specific credit score answers is closing at the highest rate, then that's absolutely a sort of signal for you to set up your routing in a specific way, where you're routing this specific answer to a specific closer, right? Here you can see the show up rate. So now you can see who has the highest likelihood of showing up. And this again is going to give you a signal as to who you should be routing to your best closer, because of course you want your closer to be showing up to as many calls as possible. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing is, if you see that somebody has, or one of these cohorts, if you see that they have a very low show up rate, you may want to consider just disqualifying them if they answer a question with one of these answers. So for this example, this isn't the greatest example because we only have one answer for this, but let's just say there was many more answers for this question here. If there's a 7% chance that they're going to show up to the call, that might be enough information for you to then just actually disqualify and redirect that lead if they answer the question with this specific answer. So the scheduling cohort is very, very powerful to know who you're talking to and who's likely to show up, who's likely to close, and of course what you do with that information. Again, on the cancel column, you can see who's most likely to cancel. So this one, there's a 69% chance that they're going to cancel the call. Okay, and obviously there's been 13 calls booked, and 9 of them were canceled from this one cohort here, people who answered this question with this answer during this week. Okay, obviously we can look at a different age range as well, or sorry, date range as well. So this actually isn't during the week. This is actually during the entire sort of 6 months roughly. So in that 6 months, we had 9 people cancel calls that answered this question with this answer. So potentially we might decide to disqualify these people or redirect them to a different offer, or just route these to some more of the junior closers so that we're not filling our calendar on our top closers with leads that are likely to cancel. So that's the scheduling cohort. I would really spend most of my time looking through this, trying to understand, again, who should we be talking to? Who should we be optimizing for in terms of getting them to show up and close? And how should we be disqualifying, routing these leads accordingly based off of the actual data and analytics in this table here. Then if you scroll down, you have the objections that were overcome. So this is for sales, and then you can also filter by no sales as well. So no sales, you can see, obviously, typically the most common objection is the money objection, but you can see all the other objections that we were not able to overcome as well. And you can see them in this pie chart here as well. And then you can filter by sales, so you can see all the objections that were overcome. And of course, typically money objection is the most common objection, but this may give you some information that you need in order to make different types of business decisions. For example, maybe looking at this, you are aware that your money objection is coming up too frequently, and maybe you need to introduce some sort of payment plan or financing option for your leads, right? Or maybe this is just giving you context in terms of where your closers need the most training, where they need to do the most role play, and where they need the most help. Okay. Then daily occupancy, this is very helpful for you to know, out of all the time slots that you have available on your scheduler between all of your closers that are added to that scheduler, what percentage of these slots are actually being booked. Okay. Now, if this number is around 70 to 80%, it may be time for you to start hiring, because let's say you're trying to scale your ads, but your occupancy is at 80%. That means that as you start to spend more on ads, the leads that you're sending to your funnel aren't going to be as likely to find a time that's going to work for them, right? Because 80% of the slots are already going to be taken, right? So this is going to help you understand like when you need to hire and when it's okay to start to spend more on your ads and scale, right? Versus when you maybe have too many people on your team and you do not have the call volume to support them, right? Obviously here you can see the top closers, you can see the top performing events, and this is just really the most, this is the most important thing for you guys to be looking at. This is going to give you all of the context you need. This is going to help you understand what is working and what is not working, and what are the biggest levers for you to pull, what is the biggest bottleneck that you're facing. Again, I would spend a lot of my time looking through the scheduling cohort, filtering by calls, sales, show-ups, and cancels, looking at all the different questions and answers, seeing who you should be speaking to, but also seeing who you should be routing to your top closers, maybe who you should be routing to your more junior closers, or what cohort should be routed to other offers or just disqualified entirely. So in the next video, we'll be going over your pixel optimization. That way you can make sure that each one of your pixels is being trained on qualified buyer data. And I will see you in the next video.